These 270 people don't have the luxury of thinking about citizenship in the abstract. They live it every single day through 1,000 small, concrete actions that have no equivalent on the mainland. Take mail, for example. A letter from the United States Postal Service, a utility most Americans take for granted, doesn't arrive within 3 days or even 3 weeks. The mail ship that services Tristan da Cunha makes the journey from South Africa roughly every 5 to 8 weeks, depending on weather, sea conditions, and supply scheduling. That means a birthday card from a family member in Ohio might take 3 months to arrive. A tax form, a medical record, a package from Amazon. All of it moves at the pace of maritime schedules, not digital infrastructure. One resident I spoke with described getting a letter from her sister in Charleston. The sister had written it in January. The envelope arrived in April. By then, the news inside, a job change, a health update, was already ancient history. The conversation had moved on, happened in phone calls and emails, but the physical letter still carried the weight of a message from another world. But here's where the isolation becomes truly structural: voting, the right that defines American civic participation. Elections in Tristan da Cunha follow the American calendar, but the logistics are staggering. The settlement has no polling place, no voting booths, no election officials trained in U.S. law. Residents who wish to vote must either travel to South Africa, a journey of several days and considerable expense, or request absentee ballots, which are mailed from the U.S., travel across the Atlantic, get filled out, and then travel back. The entire cycle can take months. Some people miss the deadline, some don't bother at all. A man named David, who's lived on the island for 30 years, told me he's voted in exactly 4 presidential elections in that entire span. Not because he didn't want to. The effort required, the timing, the mail logistics, the coordination with officials thousands of miles away, made it almost impossible. He'd miss the registration deadline, or the ballot wouldn't arrive in time, or he'd forget, because island life moves at its own rhythm, and American electoral cycles feel like they happen somewhere else. And that's the psychological pivot point. Before we continue, I want you to sit with this for a moment. You might have seen the complete breakdown of how isolation rewires American identity, how citizenship, law, economy, and culture intersect on islands cut off from the mainland. That's exactly what our detailed guide explores in depth. I've linked it in the description and pinned it at the top of the comments. It's the full framework. You can access it there if you want to understand the deeper patterns at work. Because here's what mainland Americans rarely consider. When you live on an island with 270 people and no way to leave except by ship, your relationship to American institutions isn't philosophical. It's physical. It's a practical problem you wake up with every morning. Healthcare exemplifies this perfectly. The island has a small medical clinic staffed by a nurse and visiting doctors. For anything serious, surgery, advanced diagnostics, chemotherapy, psychiatric care, patients must be evacuated by ship or plane. If the weather is bad, evacuation is impossible. One woman I met had breast cancer. She spent weeks waiting for a weather window that would allow her to leave the island for treatment in Cape Town. The cancer didn't wait. Neither did the uncertainty. Education works similarly. Children attend the island school through secondary level. But if a teenager wants to go to university, they must leave. Not for 4 years, not with the option to come home on weekends. They leave, usually at 16 or 17, and they go to South Africa or, sometimes, all the way to the mainland United States. Many never come back. This creates a generational drain. The brightest minds, the ones with the most options, leave the island and build lives elsewhere. The ones who stay, they stay because they choose to, or because they have nowhere else to go, or because the anchor of family and place is too strong to cut. This dynamic repeats on every remote American territory. Every single one. It's the engine of a different kind of American experience. What becomes clear after spending time with these communities is that Tristan da Cunha isn't exceptional in its isolation. It's exceptional in its honesty about it. These 270 Americans can't pretend their citizenship is the same as someone's in Des Moines. They can't ignore the gap between the promise of American infrastructure and the reality of their daily lives. They live the contradiction every single day, and they've built a kind of acceptance around it. Not resignation, exactly, but a clear-eyed understanding that their version of America is fundamentally different. And this is the secret I promised you at the beginning. The reason these 270 Americans choose to stay. why they board those ships knowing they might not return for months, why they raise children in a place where a single storm can cut off the world, is not because they're trapped. It's because they've chosen a version of American citizenship that most of us will never understand. They've accepted that being American doesn't mean being connected. It means something quieter, something more intentional. For decades, mainlanders have looked at remote American territories and seen problems to solve. Infrastructure gaps, economic shortfalls, brain drain, isolation. We've sent initiatives and grants and well-meaning outsiders trying to develop these places into something more recognizable, more profitable, more American in the way we understand it on the continent. But the residents of Tristan da Cunha, of Guam, of American Samoa, they're not asking to become like Des Moines. They're asking to be allowed to exist as they are. The economy here isn't broken because it's small. It functions because it's small. When everyone knows everyone, when your reputation is your livelihood, when you physically see the consequences of your choices in how your neighbor fares, the market operates differently. There's no anonymous transaction, no algorithm sorting you into a category. There's just work and community and the understanding that winter is coming and you'd better have cooperated well enough that someone will help you when you need it. Frankly, this is the part that still bothers me. How easily we dismiss these places as problems waiting for solutions. We see 270 people and think, how do we get them more of what the rest of America has? But the real question might be, what are they protecting by staying small? What kind of American identity survives only because it's been forced to remain distinct? The answer isn't romantic, it's practical. In Tristan da Cunha, you can't move through the world anonymously. You can't opt out of community. Your children grow up knowing that their futures might not include staying, but if they do stay, their choices matter to actual people they see every week. That's not isolation. That's accountability. Every remote American territory lives this same truth in different contexts. Guam's strategic value, American Samoa's cultural preservation, the Virgin Islands' colonial history. The details shift, but the core remains unchanged. These aren't forgotten shores. They're chosen shores. The people who live there have made a deliberate decision to maintain something that the mainland can't quite grasp. A version of American life that hasn't been optimized, scaled, or made profitable for external interests. The real challenge for America isn't figuring out how to fix these communities. It's learning to value them as they are, to recognize that a place where 270 people know each other's names, where loyalty and reputation still mean something, where you can't escape the consequences of how you treat your neighbor, that's not a problem, it's a mirror. Here's what I want you to do this week. Think about one decision you made today, something small, something you could have done differently. Now imagine making that same decision knowing you'd see the person affected by it every single day for the rest of your life. That's the weight these communities carry. That's also their strength. Recognize it, and maybe, just maybe, consider subscribing so you can hear more stories from the edges of America that most people never think to ask about. Thank you for watching, for getting this far with me, and please, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next upload from Forgotten Shores.